Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Gouwah Soloman and I welcome you to another episode of this week's edition of Parenting Today, where we hopefully circumvent any parenting pitfalls which could possibly happen. We're also looking at doing some accidents and possible things that could happen around your house, so varied topic shows that will help us as parents and members of community and hopefully our caregivers as well. So get them close to your screens, and remember, if they are listening across the beautiful lands and over the oceans, they can Google www.hilaal.tv and watch it right now, live stream, otherwise on our various platforms and social media. You can also interact with us as well via our social media platforms. Any comments, questions, and various queries that you have, and even some hopeful stories, questions around your parenting, we can possibly look at putting shows together, because remember, you make the show. Now let's introduce once again our video. As always, we play some parenting tips for this week.
Babies have their own language, using their body movements and facial expressions as a means of communicating. We call this non-verbal baby cues. So how do you get to understand your baby? Try following baby's lead. Watch carefully for those baby cues, when they're enjoying themselves, or when they're ready for bed or tired. It takes patience, but soon you'll begin to know what your baby is trying to tell you.
Hope you were able to learn something, even a little bit, from our parenting tips, as we focus on that every week, inshallah. And if you've got some parenting tips that will help us along and many other parents, please do send them through. Right now, we're following a series of shows on the development of the human child. That little one we've done first 1,000 days, the critical 1,000 days of a child, and that takes us, not just from when the child is born, but within in utero. How well is that mommy? How's she doing? The environment, nature, nurture, not versus each other, but together. We've had Dr Zureida Khan Allie online with us all the way from Auckland, and she's guiding us through the development of the human child. We've done the emotional, the intelligent, cognitive intelligence, the various forms of intelligence, social intelligence. And then last week we did a show on the attachments. Yeah, what is that all about? But you have to catch the show. If you have missed it, you can upload it. We have uploaded on our YouTube channel, so you can catch it on Hilaal Parenting Today. Let's welcome back Dr Zureida Khan Allie. Assalamu alaikum to you, Doc. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm alhamdulillah, and I hope that you guys are all well.
Different time zones, AM here and PM, that's right. And I know you have to go back to work, inshallah, tomorrow, but shukran again for affording us your late night time on air with us. Doc, you spoke about the first 1,000 days. We're going a little bit back to that topic almost, as well as the various forms of intelligence that does develop within a child. We've looked at attachments, never even knew that was an issue, how we as infants, when we little, create the attachments, and it does form us right and help us guide through to adulthood. But today, as promised, we're going to look at some of the cues of those little ones. But if there's anything else you'd like to add with regards to the previous show, attachments, I know time always runs out. Please, if you could introduce today's topic, inshallah.
So I think attachment is a very big concept, an important concept, because it starts when you're young, but it's pervasive throughout your life, and it shapes the rest of your relationship interactions throughout your life. And even the next topic that we're going to discuss, we're going to look at developmental milestones, basically, of the child. So we divide them into different areas, and we'll go through those areas. And I think you're particularly interested in the social skills development and interactional development in the child, but we'll cover the areas briefly. And then how important cueing is in attachment and forming and forging those relationships and the relational patterns that the child will have well into adulthood. So I think it's a very interconnected topic.
Yes, I'm so glad Dr. Zureida is our child and adolescent psychiatrist who did finish her studies here in South Africa, moved abroad, and we still, hopefully, alhamdulillah, reaping benefits of her vocation. So, Doc, attachments does lead into this topic of identifying various cues from that infant, and often we don't realize, and as you've mentioned before, that little one, and various shows, lots of readings prove that that infant in utero baby can already hear you. So try and let them identify your voice. I think it was a show before this, you said baby knows your voice, so talk more to the baby. And she doesn't, they don't necessarily move their head to see you, but they can hear you, and they might even just react physically to that. So let's look at the that infant, and when, because it's still within the critical 1,000 days, when that little one baby is born, alhamdulillah, of course, that attachment first to mom, the latching on of the breastfeeding, the warmth of the body, the mom, the dad, whoever's holding them. Is baby always going to recognize mom first? Is that one of the main things that I think we always want to know?
Within the first 3 months, baby shows clear signs of recognizing mom already. Turning, if you put mom and 5 other different people, baby will preferentially turn towards mom. Even though they don't turn very clearly, they will veer towards mom's voice. They will have some indication of veering their body towards mom's voice, because they might not be able to locate exactly how to move their bodies yet, but they will veer towards mom's voice within the first 3 months. And they recognize their mother by the end of 3 months. They recognize mom clearly. They don't have preferential, stranger danger type skills yet. That develops before 1 year old, closer to 1 year old, but definitely recognizes mom and starts smiling within the first 3 months.
What do we need to understand about that cues and the development of the brain? What's happening within the brain, Doc?
So when I speak about attachment, so attachment is the outcome that we want, a good, secure attachment. But the actual process revolves around how mom interacts with this baby. The process of achieving a secure attachment revolves around how mom interacts with the baby. And that is the ability to be in sync with baby's cues. Sometimes baby's going to want to be held. Sometimes baby's going to want to be put down. Sometimes baby's going to want to be close to mom. Sometimes baby wants some space. And it's very important to understand when baby's indicating what. You're not always going to get it right, but once you figure it out, you can correct what you don't know. But you have some moms where their emotional needs of baby takes precedence over what baby needs, and they become intrusive. So when baby turns away from them and no longer wants to play, this mom will insist on playing with baby. And you can see baby becomes distressed and wants their space, or they're tired. So sometimes when moms are emotionally needy or they have their own attachment issues, they're not able to read their baby's cues, and they only respond to their own emotional needs. And that's when you have some disrupted attachment and insecure attachments developing. So knowing baby's cues is very important. So if you look at all the nurses, the pediatric nurses, and what we call plunket nurses or the early baby development nurses, they always look at your gross motor skills. So they know at 3 months you should lift your heads, 6 months you are rolling, at 9 months you are pulling to stand or bracing, at 12 months you're starting to stand and walk, and by 15 months, 16 months, most babies should be walking. So you all know the motor milestones, the gross motor milestones. But there are also milestones for social skills, like recognizing mom and smiling. And at the age of 6 months, baby should be able to interact with gesturing. So this is very important because many kids who have social communication difficulties, like autism, they have difficulty understanding gesturing quite early on. And you don't notice it until there's an issue later, and in retrospect, you remember that your baby never indicated clearly if they wanted something. They just cried indiscriminately. Whereas a 6-month-old can show and can point, not with a finger, but they'll point in the direction of the thing that they want. And by 1 year old, they'll point with their finger. And a very important thing is that when baby starts indicating what they want, they will look at your face, look at what they want, and they'll look at you looking to where they're pointing. It's called joint attention.
Okay.
So those gesturing skills should be there by 1 year old. So not only is it important for human interaction and developing the attachment, but it can also, you can have early indicators of what you call neurodevelopmental disorders like autism if baby isn't responding to gestures. Because we, as humans, become very reliant on verbal communication once we start talking. But we forget that before baby spoke, he had a whole non-verbal way of communicating with us. And it's the non-verbal cues that we as adults forget. So I think it's important.
Yeah, so that's all connecting. That's all connecting in the development of the brain.
That's all connecting in the development of the brain. For us, we actually see a lot of non-verbal things that we don't consciously think about because we have language now. Yeah. But for me, as a psychiatrist, the non-verbal speaks volumes.
Yeah.
What people say and what people show is two completely different things. I look at your non-verbals as a psychiatrist because people can say anything. But your face, I always say, colored woman from South Africa can't hide her true feelings because her face will show it. They'll say, they will say, hi, Jayla, boy.
But she doesn't really mean it. I'm following the series. Sorry, Doc. I'm following the series called Lie to Me. Many years I watched it, and I don't know if you've seen it. And they actually look at the facial expressions, like you saying yes, you can do that, but you moving your eye, you're saying yes, but your head's going like that. Yes, you can do that. Of course you can. That nodding of your head going back and forth is actually meaning no. Your language is saying yes, but your body knows what actually happened or what you really want to say. So very true, very true in what you're saying. So that's a very good show. You should try and watch it. Lie to Me.
I will have a look at it.
We have to quickly take a break.
I'm always interested.
Yeah, we have to quickly take a break.
No problem.
And touching on the milestones and development, brain development, as well as taking that cues from Baba from a very young age, as young as maybe even a week and 3 months, up until 3 months, and how he or she identifies mom. But let's just quickly pay the bills and we come back more on parenting today and the development of the brain. Back in a moment. A very good day to you. Welcome back. Assalamu alaikum. It is Parenting Today, helping you circumvent some parenting pitfalls on the show every week, once a week, with a repeat over the weekend, inshallah. And you can also catch us on our YouTube and stream live on Hilaal.tv. So Dr. Zureida is a child and adolescent psychiatrist, is online with us as we take you through the development of the human child, looking at some cognitive cues, social skills as well from a very, very young, recognizing mom's voice, the smell, I know even just smelling the mom, but also what's happening when baby's crying. So inshallah, we'll take some of that in today's show. Dr. Zureida, are you still online with us? Welcome back.
Yes.
Okay, so we were talking a bit about how the brain is developing with those various social interactions. And of course, the milestones, we often look at the physical milestones, but don't recognize what is happening within the brain. Anything you still like to add on that topic, on that question, Doc?
Yes, I think it's quite important that knowing that when a baby's born, the brain is primed for development in those first 2 years. In those first 2 years, the bulk of synapses that will form in the baby's life will form in those first 2 years, right? So that's a very good window to maximize potential, but it's also a critical window to cause damage if things go wrong. So recognizing those cues and developing those social skills appropriately, and those secure synapses and the secure feelings and emotions that the baby needs to progress socio-emotionally can all be developed in that first 2 years. So it's a very critical time. So we speak about all these skills and the ability to learn and the plasticity of the brain, the ability of the brain to be changed in the first 2 years. It's phenomenal. Thousands and thousands and millions of synapses can form. Right? And how that develops depends on what's happening outside and in social interaction with others. So we need to understand their cueing. I think it's important also to know that the milestones, there's actually a website. I'm trying to think what it's called. I think it's called Apollo Center and Children's Hospital. And there's a nice diagram there looking at 3, 6, I think 9, 12, 1, 2, 3, and 5 years, looking at gross motor skills, fine motor skills, social skills, hearing and vision and language. And I think the last area was self-care, what babies should be able to do in self-care, to give us an indication of where they should be at more or less, and if they have delays, what you can do about it. And then also recognizing your potential. So babies whose moms play with them and have a lot of face time, they develop much better social skills. And if you look at the Romanian studies of the Romanian orphanages, those babies who were left and not adopted for long periods of time and were quite deprived and had to share a carer with 9 other babies, their social skills didn't develop in those first few years, and forever it affected them after. It was very difficult to ever catch up on their social skills. So they looked almost autistic, but they weren't autistic. It was that deprivation in the first few years, because these babies used to cry and nobody came. So eventually they stopped crying. So I know there's this theory that you should let baby cry themselves and soothe themselves. Babies can't self-regulate unless they are co-regulated. You need to go and co-regulate your baby. And after they learn some co-regulation, that is your entire endocrine system and sympathetic nervous system actually interacts with theirs and it becomes synchronized. That's when baby learns to self-regulate. You teach baby. So regarding the crying, the different crying, you will know if baby is incessantly crying and nothing soothes baby. You need to have a physical examination. You need to find out, is this baby just more sensitive? Because some of us have more sensitive feedback than others. We just have higher levels of sensory input into the brain and we perceive things much more than others. It might not be pain, but it's an increased perception in that baby. So something like colic. Babies who have colic might have physical illnesses, but often there's nothing physically wrong with baby, but they have a very sensitive sensory system, and that remains the same throughout their lives. So those babies might be more prone to developing what they call somatoform disorders. They might not have pain, but they experience pain. And that's like pain disorders, and it's a very difficult condition to have, but it's just because their central nervous system is so sensitive.
What would you say, Doctor?
That is quite... Yes,
I mean, all these new terms, and I went to go and Google so much, listening and re-listening to the show. What's it? Regulate and co-regulate.
Yes.
And understanding the meaning of it, because for us it's new jargon. But to go into nature and nurture, not versing, but interacting together with it as the baby develops, because you're mentioning again the environment.
Yeah.
So nurturing the baby, but also in conjunction of what's happening around them. So what would you say, at what age can infants then recognize emotions?
I think you can't label something until you develop a language.
Okay.
You can't label something until you develop a language.
So it can be a non-verbal language as well.
Yeah, it can be non-verbal language, but they can't indicate to us that they can't say, I am sad, until we teach them. So I encourage people, like you teach baby words, like little pictures, dog, cat. You could have pictures for emotions and start teaching them from a young age. If you obviously know how much your baby can sit still and take in. If you see your baby absorbs things from a few months old, like 6 months old, start showing them an emotions chart. Sad, happy, and when you see them being sad, you point to the emotions chart. the emotion chart and say sad. Show them the word, show them the picture. And then when they are happy and you are laughing and you know they're happy, point to the happy, and that's how they recognize emotions. Recognizing emotions is not something that we just comes naturally. We actually teach our kids and we model behaviors for our kids. When you are upset and your child sees you upset, you say, I'm sad, or I'm hurt, or I'm angry, and then you show your child. You teach them. You need to teach them this just as much as you teach them everything else, and they will develop a language for it.
So why is it important for children, I think in the infant stage, to have a secure relationship in infancy and that development?
Because we all experience anxiety. Even babies, even though they can't name it as worry and anxiety, they all experience anxiety. And the first anxiety for baby is that mom is going to leave and not come back. Because they don't understand object permanence. They don't understand if mom is in the next room, she's not gone and she's still there. Because that is cognitively is too advanced for them. They need to learn that by mom going away and coming back all the time, right? So I think for them to have a secure relationship is very important to alleviate those anxieties. To alleviate those anxieties, they must know that mom will come back. It must be predictable. So secure relationships give kids that predictability. Just like us, if we go to a new place, all of us have a little bit of anxiety. Some people say it's excitement, but there's always anxiety coupled with it. Some people have true anxiety. But whenever something new or change happens, we feel a bit of increased tension or energy. We don't describe it as anxiety all the time. But that's what babies have when things change and things become unpredictable. But I think they're great because they're going from an in utero water environment, they're coming out to this harsh, earthly environment.
Amazing.
And the only thing that is constant between those two is the mom. Yeah, so if mom can be that constant secure thing, it's a lot of change for them.
So that, again, mom being stable ripples to where the baby is at and carries that baby through to adulthood. It's absolutely amazing. We don't realize it. So, okay, this something that I also found with my kids was looking at their development from when the baby is born and how quickly they develop all of that so much in such a short space of time of 3 months and then another 3 months. And then that's why they encourage moms to be taking baby to the clinic as regularly as possible, not just for the birth weight, but to check that baby is okay, the cues, because so much is happening. So if we can just focus within that just good couple of weeks, good couple of months, in that very early critical 1,000 days of that child's life, and that is why we're focusing so much on it. But we need to take a break, Dr. Zureida. When we come back, we'll continue on that little infant and their brain development during this precious 1,000 days. Back in a moment. Welcome back. A very good day to you. Assalamu alaikum. A good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Who knows? Like our guest online, Dr. Zureida, it's a very good evening to her. Welcome back, Doc. As we look through the development milestones of our infant, the cues, the gurgles, the cries, when they recognize us or not. And is that a development, something that the infant picks up, baby smell? I know that in animals that's true, but when baby is smelling, or at least when baby is hungry, his mouth or her mouth is already opening. So can baby actually smell the breast milk and react to that?
Smell is a very interesting sense because smell is located, the center for smell, our olfactory center, is located in our limbic system, which is our emotional brain. That's where our emotional brain lies. And that's intricately linked to the body. That's why they always say, even if you don't consciously remember something, your body remembers. Sometimes you're in a situation and you feel your body going into panic and you don't know why, because your conscious memory doesn't hold it, but your limbic memory holds it. And that's intricately linked to smell. And often people have memories triggered that they don't know where it comes from just by smelling something. So smell is a very primitive thing that babies have. But babies, it's much more than smell. It's a sense that they have. They actually are able to see. People say baby don't see in the first few weeks, they're actually able to see, but it's at least blurred video, but they can see color from a very young age.
Okay.
Somebody told me when I was little, baby sees black and white. I'm like, no, that's not possible. All the stuff that's supposed to be, even at a young age, I knew all the stuff that's supposed to be there is there. They might see more blurry, and also the brain pathways from the eyes to the occipital lobe or the seeing lobe needs to develop. Those synapses need to develop. It's like a supercomputer the first 2 years. The brain is just putting things together and making connections between cells. So, yes, smell is a very important, because smell is so near to the limbic system. It's linked right. So the olfactory nerve is actually right above your nasal epithelium. Yeah, and it goes straight into the brain.
So that's why smell essential oils and oils can actually calm you and has an effect on you. Wow, brilliant. So
smell is very important.
Alhamdulillah, so it does work. Look at the personality of that infant, and I know this will probably lead into some sort of temperament and identifying, the actual child and what they would be like. But do infants engage and socialize, with their peers and family members around them?
Yes, they do. So when you look at the social skills, like I said, first 3 months, smiling, recognizing mom, responding to smiles.
Yeah.
And then they respond to simple gestures at 6 months. So I can't help it. I always look at babies and they always find me. Wherever I am, babies look at me. 6 months old, 6 months to 12 months old already. The thing a child looks for the most in anybody is if you have a twinkle in your eye when you see them.
Oh.
If you have a twinkle in your eye when you see them, they will respond. Unless they don't understand the eye contact, like with social communication difficulties and autism, they might not have those pathways at all because they don't develop those pathways the same as other kids do. But those kids usually have, because they have lacking in those social pathways, they usually have strengths in other pathways like cognitive pathways. That's how your Asperger's children come about, or children who have Asperger's come about. But they should be able to respond to simple gestures. Like I said, at 6 months, they look for that eye contact and do you recognize me as a person by the twinkle in your eye? And they also start copying. They start copying your every move at the age of about 9 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Not just your behaviors, but everything that you do. They try to mimic you. You'll see that they start playing with hammers. If they see daddy always busy, they'll mimic in their play. And they start to play with other children between 1 and 2 years. But let me tell you how early personality and temperament is set. So they did an experiment. It was actually a longitudinal experiment with some children in Canada. And it was a play group of about 10 babies. And at the age of 8 months, they put these babies in a play circle, supported by their moms. And 2 of these babies had a temperament clash. And that continued into primary school when they followed these girls up. So they didn't like each other from the get-go and they just never got along. They were separated at high school because it became hectic, the rivalry. So from 8 months old, these girls knew that they didn't like one another. So that's temperament temperament is definitely the genetic. So 50% of your genetics is mom and 50% is dad. So I'll use my own kids as an example. Ibrahim is my child. All the good, all the bad traits that he has is my stuff. Good and bad. I'm not going to say the bad stuff is his daddy's and his daddy's families because that's not fair. It's my stuff.
Good enough.
And Yakin, all the beautiful characteristics that Yakin has and all the bad characteristics, or not bad, or unfavorable characteristics that Yakin has. Yeah. The unfavorable one is like his daddy's. Like the 2 of them are very nitpicky about me. Like the label in my shirt is hurting me, and it's a small label, but they can feel it. And then me and Ibrahim
I can feel the crumb in the bed.
Yes, and the princess and the pea, I call them. But Ibrahim and I will walk with a thorn in our foot, and the first sign of that will be that there's blood somewhere, but we won't even feel it. So we are very different because that doesn't bother us. So Ibrahim It's
Amazing.
50% genetically dad's and 50% mine, but his temperament and his traits are more like mine. He's very
Okay.
talkative, very engaging. Whereas Yakin is shy, but also engaging once he gets to know you. But their temperaments are definitely veering towards Ibrahim, towards me and Yakin. So our kids can all have different temperaments, and we learn from a young age what their temperaments are. Like Ibrahim we had to watch him because he was always on the go getter, and Yakin was, they called him Mr. Nice Guy. He used to sit and observe everybody. So from a young age, they had different temperaments.
So that helped you in your studies, I'm sure. Looking at your children and using them as
Yes,
guinea pigs,
yes.
studying psychiatry.
What I
Wow.
learned, what advice I can give. And
Mm.
my father-in-law told me this. He used to tell me, you see these 5 fingers, they're very different. These are my 5 sons. So I have the same set of rules, but I have a different approach for each of them. And I listen to the wisdom of my ancestors, yes, and my father-in-law.
They definitely had
So
the University of Life in their pockets.
yes, yes,
Alhamdulillah, and generations
yes.
after
So
that.
same, yeah. Yeah, so same set of rules, but you need to adapt your approach to your child. Like I can't manage Yaki in the same way I do Ibrahim.
Mm. Understanding these emotions and these temperaments, do you then can it then be understood from a very like infancy age? Because now you get the moms and tots groups, and you were talking about the groups that comes together. So if you can,
Yes.
and the possibilities there, how, is the encouragement for moms to let her baby interact with other babies from a young age? Do they understand each other's gurgles? Because you said it was 9 months. But these moms and tots are happening
Yeah.
from as young as 3 months, if not smaller, just for the moms also to have
Yes.
a life and to interact
A
with other
social.
moms.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think children start, they play parallel to one another,
Mm.
but amicably before 1 year of age already. But they'll play parallel.
Mm.
They'll start interacting after 1 year of age, like from about 16 months up to 2 years. That's when they start playing with other children, and then you'll see the temperaments come out. You'll see who the boss one is, who the submissive one is, and it will also help you choose which type of play group to put your child in, whether your child needs structure, whether your child needs free play. It gives you a cue to which school you would want to put your child in as well. Montessori versus mainstream versus structured play versus just a play group versus for boys, sometimes they're really robust. You want to put them in a more activity-based school. So their temperaments are important. Like I said, all children are born with strengths and difficulties. So your temperament is part of that as well, and you need to accommodate their temperament. You don't want to break a child.
Yeah.
People say, somebody told me one day, I just want to break his will. I'm like, no, please don't break his will. She said she wants to break her son's will because he's like really stubborn, this boy. She said, I just want to break his will. So I said, don't break his will. Understand where his defensiveness is coming from. So she did that, and it's helped her.
So not break it, just bend it or mold it to the preferences that
Or
you would
mold
like to see.
and make them understand that if they win all the time, somebody has to lose. Some children don't have natural empathy. Empathy is also something that is you have a lot of genetic input for empathy. Some children don't have the pathways for empathy, but you can teach it to them from a young age, and they can develop some semblance of empathy. But you also need to show empathy to others and to your child so that they can experience it, to develop that empathic pathway. And we have different levels of empathy in our temperament that we're born with.
Wow.
Same with self-esteem.
That's another topic. Oh my goodness, so much more that comes out, different types of empathy.
Always.
And then they say, "Begi boom as hy nog jonk is," bend the branch when he's still young. Very common in our Cape Flats saying.
Yes.
But it's not about breaking, and it's important that we've identified the difference. Doc, we just need to take a quick
Yes.
break. When we come back, we need to wrap up this topic after this, but more on, the development of that brain, that infant, that little one, identifying you, and also just to check in, when you can introduce yourself to that infant. I know grannies and grandpas, they're very excited to, people that infant's life from a very young age, and we'll check out that information and what's happening with the brain just after this. So stay with us. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. We unfortunately need to wrap up our last few minutes on the show, but luckily we have a doc, alhamdulillah, with a series of shows in and after hours. Shukr. And hopefully we'll have her very soon in studio as she visits SA in Cape Town. We'll await that patiently. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, Doc. And I'm sure you're excited as going back and visiting your hometown. So hopefully we can take some of your holiday time and get you in studio, inshallah. Dr. Zureida, alhamdulillah, so much more can be said on the brain development of that infant, and talking about baby and that infancy. You've mentioned the 3 months, only after 3 months, possibly then seeing, but the sound, the colors, the visual, even if it's impaired, is possibly there. So identifying, the rest of the family in the household, because of course the first one is mom and baby's closest to her, is with her, and possibly dad as well, depending on the interaction, how much interaction he has with infant, I'm sure. But, you get the extended families. There's maybe some siblings, there's grannies, there's grandpas, there's aunties and uncles. How soon should you as the additional family member introduce yourself to that little one? I know baby does recognize voices even when in utero. But, when baby's there and you want to interact, how important is that physical, that verbal, that expressional, social cues, even from infancy? And again, how soon can you introduce yourself to baby?
I think that is not a simple answer.
Okay.
The first thing we need to make sure is that baby is medically stable to be introduced to everybody. So you don't want a baby who is premature, is more vulnerable in terms of immunity. So it depends on baby, if baby is physically healthy, right? So if we say that baby is completely physically healthy, and then I don't think there is any harm in people coming to see baby, as long as those people are healthy and not bringing in germs. But handling baby, I think, should be kept to a minimum initially in the first few weeks. I think that should be limited to people that are actually going to be very closely caring for baby. And it also depends on what mom feels comfortable with. First time moms, we don't want to increase their anxiety, obviously. So if they're quite anxious about baby and baby's a bit small, respect what the moms want. I think it's very important. Respect what the parents want. And I want to speak to our people in our culture, my culture particularly. I think aunties and extended family become quite offended when new moms try to lay down rules and boundaries. But often it's because of their anxiety and to protect baby. It's not meant as an offense to you. And all of us should know that baby is a vulnerable being with a lot of good potential in those first 1,000 days. So let's respect what moms feel is best for their babies. Some moms are obviously wanting to keep people away because of, like I said, medical reasons. And sometimes mom just needs time to settle with baby. So I think it will be very individualized, depending on the infant, depending on the mom, and depending on the family. I think grandparents, if they are truly supportive and in good keeping with the parents, then they should be allowed to be brought in quite early. But mom and dad need private time with baby to develop that bond. Socio-emotionally, they're the most important people for the first few months of the baby's life. But you need to introduce others as well, because if you are isolated with baby for too long, as we're seeing now with babies who were isolated during COVID,
yes,
a lot of them can have very big anxieties when they first see people after a year of being alone with mom. So it will depend on baby and baby's reactions and baby. If baby's quite unsettled by too many people, take the cue from baby again. Take the cue from baby. If mom becomes anxious and unsettled, find out what's happening for mom. How can we better support mom? Because all that's important is not your need to see baby, it's the diet. I'm sorry to tell all the aunties, the diet is important, not your need to see baby. I'm being harsh.
I thought it was a quick answer, Zureida, Dr. Zureida. I thought it would have been okay at
There's
this time
never
and
a
that
quick
place.
answer.
Yeah. But that's so
No, there's never.
important. Yeah.
The most important thing I'm going to ever say about anything about development, and for any interaction with any person that I've had, every case that I have is an individual case, informed by statistic and science, but it fits into that that individual's context. And once you do that, once you show your patient that their story is the most important story at that time for you, that's when you have your patient and your client on board to work with you. Because it is important. So if there's no simple answer, it's very individualized. I can't tell you at 1 month or 2 months. It will depend on the family. It will depend on mom's relationship with the family. It will depend on the health of the mom, the health of the baby. Sometimes when mom is not well or she has mental illness, which is the risk is increased around pregnancy, perinatally, and with labor. When mom has that, there needs to be another person. It might be dad, but it might be a grandmother, it might be an aunt. And it depends on the mom's relationship with those individuals. If she has good relationships with those individuals, they'll be more welcome to come into the diet quite early.
Dr. Zureida, what's happening with the different cries of the baby? Often, the baby's doesn't need a nappy change. He has been fed or she has been fed. Baby is meant to go and sleep. There's just this crying that you just don't identify. You can also possibly identify certain cries, and then there's just this one cry you just don't know what's going on. What could possibly be, a factor?
So many things. It's like us. Why are you worried today? There's nothing wrong. You slept well. You've been fed. You went to work. Nothing's happened, but you are just worried today. That could be something as simple as that. Baby's just having a bad day. Okay. Yeah, baby's just having a bad day. It could be that baby's having some physical condition and they can't communicate to you. Maybe they're teething, or maybe they're actually having an upset tummy or the start of something. Some babies, before they become ill, before they develop a temperature, before they develop any symptoms, they start crying. And that's the sort of what they call prodrome to a physical illness. Some babies, it could be that the mom is not well that day. So check yourself. Okay. Mom has been unsettled. Mom has felt unwell. Baby picks up on that. Yeah. Some babies could be needing a change in feed. They need to be eating more, and mom's milk is not sufficient anymore. So there are various reasons why baby could be unsettled. Just like us, like when we are angry or when we are tired or when
you said hangry,
burnt out or
you said hangry, angry and hungry.
Yes,
just wanted to clear that quickly.
It's very convenient.
Yeah.
Yes. So when we're angry, it's just the same as, because they have their own. Babies have their own psychological world before they are born. In utero already, they have a psychological world, and that's what we need to recognize. So they're just like us. But the different crying is important. Most parents learn to recognize baby's tired, baby's sleepy, baby's in pain. They learn to recognize that. And sometimes you need somebody to help you recognize that. Like a more knowledgeable older person will tell you, your baby's cried like this a couple of times and this. So you work out with your baby what the different crying means.
Okay. We don't always want to hear that, because we want to also find our way as moms. It's my new baby. No, it's mine, all of that. So we don't always react positively to the advices. But inshallah, I know even for us, we can recognize when I'm open to this, when I can take this, and grant the necessary understanding. Our time is running up very quickly, and I want to quickly take this opportunity for you to guide us on how we can develop the child's brain, that baby's brain from infancy already. You've mentioned the colors that they hazingly see, identifying when they are starting to lift their head, when they smell different things. How can we enhance an infant's brain development at a young age already?
So we need to recognize the potential of that brain. Let your baby listen to Kira if you are that way inclined. Let your baby listen to music. Read to your baby from a young age, in utero already. When baby's born, get a neurosensory toy. If you look at cognitive development, according to the theorist Piaget, motor sensory learning is the way the brain develops initially. So a nice motor sensory toy that has sound, lights, feeling, and even emits a smell. And then that's a very good way for cognitive development. For emotional development, talk to baby, make eye contact. Even baby can't see you properly. Make change your voice to indicate different emotions. Have FaceTime with baby. Have tummy time with baby. Play. Play is a very important for children. Play is actually cognitive development. It's a way of they play to develop their cognitions. So playing with baby, recognizing that they have a psychological and emotional world, soothing them when they need it, leaving them alone when they indicate they want some space, giving them sensory motor toys, reading to them, stimulating them, reciting to them, music, like I said, and even physical therapies like massaging baby, and you know what, expose baby to the world and other people by showing them how other people are, how other people behave. That the more baby experiences, the more synapses are formed. Speak all the languages that you and your husband speak all of them to baby. Wow. Baby will pick up in the first few years. If they want to learn musical instruments, first 5 years of their life, introduce them, make them excited. The first 5 years, the potential for developing those synapses are so great. But also recognize what baby's limitations are. And get advice when you recognize that the milestones aren't being reached. That would be my best advice. As a mother, and as a parent, you hold so much potential, so much power. I always tell people, you want power, have a child. They develop the next Mother Teresa or the next Donald Trump.
There you have it. And with the ultimate guidance of the Almighty and our du'as, your du'as, keep making du'as for your children. And I know some of our parents battle really even at the older age, but you have the opportunity, like Dr. Zureida said, to mold them into even whatever you could possibly think of, and as we want is the best for our ummah and the ultimate slave and worshipper to the Almighty. But shukran so much. I think, Doc, what we'll do is we'll follow through on temperament possibly, because this has led into some of the identifications of certain personalities from as young as 8-9 months of little ones not getting along with others and leading till creche. But it was an exciting show so much. I learned all these new jargons, which I'm definitely going to Google and learn more about. We hope to see you in our next show, hopefully in studio possibly. But inshallah, Allah knows best. All the best, Dr. Zureida, and really, really appreciate your time and, as always, valuable advices to our viewers. Assalamu alaikum to you. There we have it, Dr. Zureida Khan Allie, child and adolescent psychiatrist based out in Auckland. And this definitely leads us to looking into a show with specialist audiologist Dr. Shabnam, where she will take us through possible, identifying how we can also enhance that child's brain development, doing things from home. And ultimately molding them like we want them to. But this is it for Parenting Today. Join us in our next show, informing you once again on the development of the human child. From myself, Gouwah Soloman, wassalamu alaikum, and goodbye for now.